Hello everyone. Okay, so this will be my part 3 video. I'm sorry the last one was so long, and this one is probably going to be a long one too. I filmed it all in one and I've just cut it up into different videos, so let's get on with that. At that point, I felt I had accepted what my nan had been through. I didn't then think I had to accept that my nan had gone. When she passed away, I did not think until that point when I had to leave her body. I'm very proud of this, and if anyone, I mean anyone, says anything bad about this, I'm just going to brush it off. I'm not even going to acknowledge the fact that they have said it, because for me this was a very honourable, proud moment. Some people may think it's wrong, some people may think that's disgusting, why would you do that? But I think I mentioned in my part 1 video that I was then a care assistant, and I hadn't actually done this yet, but I knew, you know, it was happening. I knew I had to do it at some point, and I was just so happy, so proud of myself, so proud of my nan that I had this opportunity. I do not find it disgusting, I do not find it at all wrong, but I actually had the privilege of washing my nan's body and dressing her in clean clothes when she had passed, after she had passed. Some people may think that is really wrong and view it as, why would you even touch a dead body? Like, that's how some people would think about it, and I know that and I understand that. But for me and my family, you know, I feel that some of my family members take comfort in that a family member, you know, looked after my nan in those moments after she had went, you know, made sure she was clean, made sure she had clean clothes, you know, her body was as happy as it could be in that state. And I truly believe that the human body is a way of kind of, even when there's no life form in it, like if I was dead right now and people were talking to my body, I feel like secretly, or I don't believe in any life after death, I don't believe in anything like that, but I do believe that actually because our energies never die, I believe that if someone were, like one of my family members, were to talk to my body, that I was no longer, my dead body that wasn't functioning anymore, I believe that my energy would know that message, would know what they're saying. I was so privileged, I am privileged to have done it, and I just feel like I did that for my nan, like my nan would have wanted me to do it. I even asked everyone if it was okay that I did it. I asked my uncle, I asked my dad, I asked my nan's mum, I asked my nan's partner, I asked my mum, because the nurse had asked, does anyone want to assist in washing and dressing my nan? I then asked everyone if it would be okay if I did it, and everyone was fine. If you want to do that, you do that. I'm getting all teary, I'm sorry. My nan's mum actually stayed in the room. She witnessed everything that happened. I didn't do any of the intimate parts. I did, however, do the chest. But I still kept my nan's dignity. I still, you know, I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to invade my nan's privacy. And some people might think, yeah, but she's not really there. She's not in her body anymore. But I felt like, you know, I still need to maintain this person, this human being, my nan's dignity. So yeah, I did that. crazy that I, like, you know, I did that. But all through this time, I had never left the room. I had never left my nan. I was always by her side. And this was the same with her mum. Apart from one point, I was alone with my nan. And I couldn't leave her. I felt like if I left her on her own in this room, that meant she was really gone. Like, she hadn't been alone for I don't know how long. Like, all of these weeks, she had someone with her night and day. You know, I felt like if I left her alone, that means she's alone. She's not here anymore. And, oh, literally, I'm getting so... Anyway, I found it incredibly hard to leave her body. Leave her. When I did, me and my parents went to Southend Hospital, where she had previously been staying, to obviously get death certificate signed and everything. I sat in the funeral home with the meeting with my parents. You know, I was as involved as I could be. We then had her funeral on the 9th of May. This was the Monday. I do not like Mondays. But that was a very special day, and I was honoured and privileged enough to have spoken at her funeral. I found this very difficult, I am not going to lie, but I also found it I found it quite, I don't know what the word is, like, I don't want to say easy, but I found it physically and mentally easy to do. Emotionally, I was in floods of tears. You know, I didn't like doing it, but I did, at the sense that I was doing it. I was talking at my nan's funeral, at her celebration of life service. That's how I view it. And I feel like if I didn't speak at her funeral, if I didn't say those last words, then I would be making this video regretting that I didn't. After her funeral, it was then back to college, it was then back to work, it was then back to normal life. But after a few months of normal life, my granddad started to go downhill. My granddad 4 years ago was diagnosed with stomach cancer, and he had been living with it for 4 years, and I had only just dealt with my granddad, like, accepting the fact that my granddad was living with cancer when my nan got cancer when she was diagnosed. So obviously then I had to accept the fact that my nan was diagnosed, and then accept the fact that she was not coming out of hospital, that she was gonna go, and then when she went I had to accept the fact that she'd gone. But the months that led up to me finishing college, I finished college with 2 distinctions. I am very proud of myself. I'm not like making that to boast or anything, I'm just saying I feel like I had worked incredibly hard, especially, you know, knowing the circumstances that I was in. I feel like I did extremely well to get 2 distinctions out of it, and I feel like I made my nan proud by doing that, by finishing my course and getting the best grade I could have got. To then kind of see my granddad every day get worse, it wasn't like a sudden worse like my nan was. It was kind of like every day I'd ask him if he's okay, and he'd be honest with me. He'd say, no, I'm not okay, I'm hurting today, or I'm just not feeling right, I'm sad today. He'd tell me how he was feeling, and that's something I love about my granddad. He was always honest. He's an honest man. He really is an honest man, and I say is because he is still with me today. So is my nan. Just before my 2-week holiday to Crete with my best friend Tilly, she came with me and my parents. It was just before the holiday that I realised that actually maybe my granddad might go while we're on holiday. He was at that point where he was getting really bad. He was, you know, finding it very difficult to walk, all of that. And it then got to the point when we went on holiday, it was very hard to leave. All through my holiday, I was Skyping him. I'd Skype my auntie, who was living with them at that time. Well, staying with them for the 2 weeks. While we went there. Bearing in mind, my granddad lives right next door to me. I have lived next door to him my whole entire life. And so while we were on holiday in Crete, if you don't know where Crete is, it's in Greece. So we were quite a while away. We were 3 hours ahead of the time zone here. I'd message my auntie, say, can you Skype now or in a couple of hours time or something, and my granddad got to see where we were staying, got to see how much fun me and Tilly were having, got to see how much fun me and my parents were having. He really wanted us to go on that holiday. He pushed us to go on that holiday. It was the end of the holiday, it was the Friday before we came home, and my granddad got a syringe driver put in. I think he had it put in his chest. If you don't know what a syringe driver is, it's kind of like it's in a plastic case. It's probably about this big. It's basically a massive syringe full of medications. I did mention that my nan had a syringe driver. My nan actually at one point had 2, just because of top up and all of that. But my granddad actually had a syringe driver put in, and it's connected to the body, to this big old syringe driver plastic case thing, by a kind of small tube, from obviously the insert site to the body to the actual syringe. My granddad had his in his chest, I believe. Yeah, he had this put in. It was kind of like a mild dose of medication, but he was kind of very sleepy. He was kind of in and out of it. We didn't actually know that he had a syringe driver put in until we got home. And we got home we came home on the 23rd, I know that. We went on the 9th of July, by the way, and came home on the 23rd of July. The next few days were kind of just like spending time with my granddad. He was at this point in his bed in his bedroom. Family came down to visit. You know, we kind of all just spent time together as a family. It was amazing. Well, as amazing as those days could be. You know, my auntie and my uncle, my cousins came down. They spent time with him. We spent time with him. We were all there to spend time with him in those few days. My cousins and my auntie had, I'm not going to say an awful experience. I think it would have been awful for me, so that's just where I'm coming from. But my cousins and my auntie and uncle weren't actually there when he passed. They were on holiday. They were having their holiday. I felt the need to, you know, tell my granddad when they went away that they were having a good time, you know, they were loving it out there, all of that. I felt the need, I had to tell him. And at one point he was nodding, he was shaking, he was, you know, he was still alert. At this point he wasn't able really to have conversation with you, he was just able to nod and answer to yes and no questions. So, you know, he was still engaging with me, he was still engaging in conversations. I skipped ahead a little bit there, but so slightly before that, the nurses would come every day, you know, check the syringe driver, check how Grandad was doing, and then they said about a hospital bed, and this happened really quickly. I did not expect it to happen as quickly as it did, but to be honest, I wouldn't have had it any other way. The hospital bed came a few days before my cousins and that left for holiday, so they were able to have this experience with us. So we got the hospital bed set up where my granddad had his armchair in the living room, so we moved that out, moved everything out, so it was easy to get the hospital bed in. So we had it all set up. He had a lovely Airwave mattress. If you don't know what Airwave mattresses are, they are basically air mattresses, but the mattress itself, it kind of changes, like it will dip in certain places, it will kind of ripple, it will, you know, it will do all sorts of things to ensure that pressure areas and prevent pressure sores from occurring. You know, it kind of takes the pressure off in certain places of the body. Anyway, my granddad was then transported from his bed in the bedroom to the hospital bed, where I think he was a lot more comfortable. You know, he didn't, I feel like he didn't feel like he was going to fall out of bed or anything. He was, you know, as comfortable as he could be. So that happened very, very quickly. It kind of happened the day after we kind of spoke about it. But in retrospect, that was a very good thing. I wouldn't have had it any other way. We then spent time with him again. And it was then on probably kind of like the 29th of July that my granddad started to kind of show us that he was going. He had quite a lot of false alarms where we would all say our goodbyes. He'd be so close to going, like his skin would have gone white as a sheet, you know, his breathing would have changed, but then all of a sudden his breathing picked up again. He started to, you know, pink up in the skin. He started to breathe, you know, normally. Then the next day it happened again. It looked like he was gonna go. Like we had said our goodbyes probably 4 or 5 times before he actually went. And at this point it was just a waiting game. It really was. We were just waiting for him to take his last breath. And I'm giggling at that because my granddad is a stubborn man. He's always been a stubborn man. But he's been a good stubborn man. I don't mean it as like, you know, a bad grumpy old man stubborn. I mean it as like funny stubborn, like good stubborn. I've said stubborn too many times. Sounds funny now. He'd always put up a fight, you know, play jokes on us. So I'm laughing at it because I felt like it was one of his jokes. Like he would make us, like, trick us to believe he's going, and then all of a sudden I'm fine, I'm okay, forget it, I'm not going today. Like, it's just something that my granddad would do. Like, he'd trick us, but it just kind of, it not only made me giggle but my gran giggle, you know, his wife giggle. I can't, you know, I can't really explain it any other way apart from it was simply granddad. It was simply my granddad. But anyway, yeah, like I said, we kind of said our goodbyes. The morning that he had passed, the night we had as good as sleep as we could, and we were all there when he went. I guarantee that he was surrounded by people he loved, you know, we were all there. When I say we were all there, I do mean we were all there, because even though my cousins and my auntie and my uncle were not physically there, I know that they were there. Granddad would have known, you know, they were having a good time. He wouldn't have wanted them not to go, just like he said to us, you're going because I don't want to stop you. I don't want to be the reason you're not going. And I know he would have said the same to them if he could have, if he had the chance to say that. He would have said that. I know in my heart and my mind that they were there with him. He knew they were there. And he passed away on the 2nd of August 2016. It is now the 20th of September 2016. This was only a month ago. And it's weird. It's very weird. So then my granddad's funeral was on the 16th of August, and I was not only privileged enough to talk at his funeral, I was also privileged enough to be a family pallbearer. If you don't know what a pallbearer is, it's basically the people who carry the coffin in, like to the service. And I did this alongside my auntie and uncle and my eldest cousin. This was probably the most kind of emotional experience for me, knowing that I was carrying my granddad's body, coffin and flowers, you know, on my shoulder. I know that sounds really like crude to talk about
you know, my granddad's body in a coffin, like, and me carrying him. Like, I know that sounds crude, but it's the truth, and, you know, I'm here to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, you know. So I was very privileged enough to do that, and I'm sure my other family members were too. I am also very happy at the fact that my best friend Tilly, not only my best friend, my little sister, my rock, was able to come to the funeral with me and my family to support us, and also say her goodbyes, because her and my granddad knew each other. They, you know, they knew who each other were. And actually, I've never told Tilly this, because I get really emotional when I think of it, because my granddad actually once said to me that he was very proud and thankful of Tilly, because she had been there for me through my nan and just general bumps in the road, you know, teenage girl stuff. You know, I have always been able to go to her about it, and we like the same things. You know, we share a very good relationship, and he was very thankful of Tilly for being there for me. And I apologise, Tilly, if you're watching this. I've never told you that. I just get too emotional. Okay, so yeah.